this story that I wrote. And I hope it explains itself. It's fiction. A lot of people, when you write fiction in first person, they think the narrator is the author. Now, this guy's not me, okay? Though, sort of, okay? This is called The Gift That Keeps on Giving. The snow was coming down outside Phyllis's window in back of her standing in her doorway. She put her hand out to me and I was in the hallway. $5, she said, in advance. Last time it was $4, I said. $5, Willie, or I'm not doing it, she said. When somebody gives you something, then you're supposed to give them something. And when you give somebody something, then they have to give you something. That way it all comes out even. But it's hard sometimes to keep track of it all unless you have a notebook and carry it around and write down whenever you give somebody something. And sometimes it doesn't always come out even, and that's why they have Christmas. I never gave Phyllis anything for Christmas, though, but I was hoping she forgot. Sometimes people forget, and then you don't have to give them anything. That way you can always come out ahead. But it's Christmas, I said. I only had $2. Well, she said, if you think I'm doing it for $4 on Christmas Day, then you can think again. Anyway, Willie, this has been costing you too much money. I get $5 on holidays, and you know, Willie, that for you I do it for $4, but that's not the point. It's not the money. I'm old enough to be your mother. You need to find a nice girl closer to your own age. Then you won't have to pay for it anymore. I don't have $4, Phyllis, I said. I'd like to help you, Willie, but I can't, she said. Well, I said, maybe I can get $4 and pay you later. It's over, Willie, she said. I can't do this anymore. It's not being fair to you, so forget it. Isn't it enough that I'm making Christmas dinner for everybody? I'm not letting anybody in until 3 o'clock, so don't come any earlier. You have to bring your own booze this year. I can't afford to buy booze for everybody. See you then, Willie. She closed the door in my face, and I went down the hall and in my room. I looked out the window. There was 2 feet of snow on the ground, and it was still coming down. There was a knock on the door, and it was Eddie, all covered with snow. He was my friend. He said, they're looking for guys to shovel the snow off the railroad tracks. Well, you're too old, Eddie, I said. They won't hire you. He was about 60. I know, he said, but if we go together, well, maybe you can get me in. Well, what are they paying, I said. $4, he said. Okay, I said, let's go. Well, me and Eddie got shovels out of the supply closet, and Bessie, she was the landlady, she asked us where did we think we were going with her shovels, and we told her we were going to shovel the sidewalk for her on account of it was Christmas. Then we went down to the railroad tracks, and I told the man Eddie was my father, and he was a real good snow shoveler, and the man said, get to work. I didn't mind being out in the cold shoveling snow. I felt like a kid again. I was shoveling more snow than anybody, and I was making them all look bad. I learned how to shovel snow better than anybody when I was a kid, and it was like I was back on the farm shoveling snow even better than my brothers. They were smarter than me, but I was a snow shoveling fool. Eddie, he wasn't much good, though. He'd used to be a salesman, and he went to college once. He didn't know how to shovel snow like I did. Bend your knees, I told him. Don't throw the snow straight up. Let it slide off your shovel like this, see? You don't listen, Eddie. Geez, why don't you listen and do what I tell you? Watch me and do it like I do. Look at me, Eddie. Well, I kept telling him, but it wasn't any use. And the other guys, they were jealous, and one guy said everywhere you went there was some loudmouth. When we were near the end, I made a snowball when nobody was looking, and I hid it in my coat pocket. I said, I'll get that, Eddie. I waited until he bent over and I got him with a snowball right in the ass. He turned around, but by then I was shoveling again. At first he didn't know who did it. I didn't fool him for long though. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. A few minutes later, a snowball went over my head. I knew it was that Eddie. And I turned around and he was shoveling and he was grinning and he didn't fool me. I made out like I didn't know it was Eddie, see? And that way he could throw another one and he maybe hit me. He did too. He got me, not in the ass, but pretty close. That was pretty good because Eddie was queer and he threw like a girl. I looked all around like I was looking for the guy that threw the snowball, but I knew it was Eddie. Well, we both got $4 apiece, and Eddie wanted to go off with this other queer guy, and I told him, that guy knows you have $4 and he wants to get you under the bridge so he can roll you for it. Eddie was always getting rolled. But after I told him, then he didn't go with the queer. On our way back to the hotel, we stopped at City Market, and Eddie bought a bottle of Mad Dog for the both of us, and we drank it on the way home walking in the snow, and it was still coming down hard. "Merry Christmas, Willie," he said. The Mad Dog was his Christmas gift to me. I'd saved him from that queer, but I couldn't think if that counted for a Christmas gift to him. And so probably I still owed him for the Mad Dog, but I wasn't sure. I thought, don't worry about it, Willie, because that Eddie, he forgets things all the time anyway, and if he forgets, then you won't have to pay him back. So I just said, "Merry Christmas, Eddie." Everyone who lived at the hotel went to Phyllis's room for dinner. She did that every Christmas. It was her gift to everyone, and it was nice, and we all had a good time and lots of fun, too. That year, Phyllis invited a friend of hers that didn't live at the hotel named Wallene. Wallene was a lot younger than Phyllis, and I thought Phyllis took Wallene under her wing. We had a good time, and then everybody left, and then it was just Phyllis, Wallene, and me. We cleaned up the place, and then Phyllis wanted to get comfortable, so she changed into a nightgown. There was only one room, so she opened the closet door and she changed on the other side of that. Then Wallene wanted to get comfortable too, so Phyllis let her change into her other nightgown. I was laying on my back on the bed, and I wasn't really watching Lawrence Welk on TV, and Wallene kept moving around on the bed, walking on her hands and knees and showing me everything she had, and you could see right through her nightgown. She was breathing hard and she couldn't stay still. She couldn't help it, and it wasn't her fault. Phyllis was sitting on the edge of the bed doing a crossword, and she had her glasses on. She was real smart, and she always did puzzles all the time. Then she slapped me with her newspaper. "Hey," she said, "quit jiggling the bed." She wasn't really mad, though. "It's not me," I said. She knew it was Wallene. "Well, whoever it is can go jiggle somebody else's bed," she said. "I don't like my bed being jiggled unless I'm the one jiggling it. I'm going to the can and take a long shower." Phyllis went down the hall to the bathroom. Wallene said that Lawrence Welk was her favorite show, and she asked me how they made the bubbles, and I said, "I don't know." There was no point in making pretend anymore. We both wanted it bad. I looked at her, and her eyes blinked, and she looked down, and I knew that meant yes. I couldn't hardly swallow to talk. "Let's do it in my room," I said. She left a note on Phyllis's bed, and we did it in my room. We did it a couple of times, and we smoked the same cigarette together in bed and talked, and then she put on her clothes and went home. She didn't ask for any money, though, and we both wanted it, so I figured I didn't owe her anything. Well, then a couple days later, I noticed I had the crabs. Well, that was Wallene's Christmas gift to me. She didn't tell me she had them beforehand. I guess she wanted it to be a surprise. Well, maybe I owed her, and that was how I had to pay, so that it would all come out even. I don't know. I went to Phyllis's room, and I knocked on her door. "What do you want?" she said. "I got the crabs," I said. "Well, that's not my problem," she said. "They're not my crabs." "Well, they're not mine," I said. Somebody had to give them to me. I believe they are your friend Waleen's crabs." "Well, that cannot be," Phyllis said. "Waleen is a nice girl. She is most definitely not the kind of girl that gets crabs, nor does she pass them on to others. I invited her for Christmas dinner so that she would not have to be alone on Christmas Day. I told her that she was going to meet a nice fellow, and then, after you had taken from her the most precious gift a woman has to give, you practically threw her out in the snow on Christmas of all days. You never even called her. Did it even so much as occur to you that maybe that's why you got the crabs?" "Well, why would I call her?" I said. "I had the idea that you took her under your wing and you were teaching her. I thought she was a pro." "Wherever did you get that idea?" Phyllis said. "If I was teaching her, you would have had to pay, and then you wouldn't have the crabs. Waleen is a nice girl." "Well, she must be a nice girl," I said, "because she gave me her crabs. I just want her address so that I can go there and thank her." Well, she gave me the address, and then she put out her hand and she said, "You owe me $2. "Well, what for?" I said. "I'm charging everyone $2 this year for Christmas dinner," she said. "Well, you didn't charge last year," I said. "Turkey's gone up," she said. "I'm not Santa Claus." Well, I gave her $2, and so now I didn't have to count the Christmas dinner she gave me as a gift, so at least we were even. "When you see Eddie," she said, "you make sure you tell him he owes me $2. Well, I had another $2, so I paid for Eddie, and that was my Christmas gift to him. Well, I was thinking that if I paid everything I owed, then maybe the crabs would go away. It was snowing when I walked to Waleen's house and I knocked on her door. "What do you want?" she said. "I got the crabs," I said. "In no way," she said, "could you possibly have got them from me, because I don't have the crabs." "Well, that's good," I said, "because I just come over to tell you that if you did have them, then you better do something about it." "Well, I don't," she said. "Well," I said, "all I know is that I didn't have them before and I have them now." "Well, don't stand in my doorway letting the snow in and telling the entire neighborhood about your crabs," she said. "Come in and close the door." I went in and closed the door, and she said, "You got a lot of nerve barging into my home and incinerating to me that I gave you the crabs, when you know perfectly well that in point of fact it was you who gave them to me. Did you try putting anything on them to drive them away?" "No," I said. "I found out I had them and then I came here." "Well, I think maybe I got some stuff that will knock them out," she said. "Wait here." She went in the other room and she came back with a jar of crab lotion, a tube of shaving cream, and a razor. And by that time I was all done arguing with her over whose crabs were whose. 50 years later, and she still tells everybody that I gave her the crabs. I wonder what she'll give me for Christmas this year. And that's the end of our story. Thank you for listening.